In 1932, Franklin Roosevelt got 57.4% of the popular vote, and he won 42 states. That number increased in 1936 to 60.8% and 46 states. That's a landslide, clearly, right? Over 60% of the popular vote and 46 states. As a result of those landslides, the FDR landslides, the Democrats essentially controlled the White House and the United States House of Representatives for almost the entire period between the 30s and the 70s. Landslides, obviously, therefore, have real consequences, right? Except for David's grandfather, President Eisenhower, you had Democratic control of the White House for an extended period of time, well over a generation. Then in 1972, we have our next landslide. The Dees nominated candidate who was perceived as being to the far left, and Nixon wins with 49 states out of 50, 60.7% of the popular vote, almost identical to the high point of the FDR popular vote, 60.7%. Next landslide and last landslide, 1984. Ronald Reagan wins, again, 49 states, 58.8% of the vote for Reagan. A little less, right, than the nearly 61, 59 compared to 61, but still sort of in the ballpark of a 60-40 majority. That's a landslide, right? Clearly, a 60-40 majority.
I think there's nothing more important than having a landslide election and rid the country rather of Trumpism. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen this year. It's probably not going to happen 4 years, 8 years, not in my lifetime, maybe in Isabel's lifetime. But we are divided. My wife has been doing a series for the past 2 years on why we're so divided. And if it were just Washington, just, politics, then I would say, okay, we can work our way through that. But, when she goes to a really close-knit community in near Erie, and they are so divided on books in the library, and goes to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there's a huge divide over whether they want to honor a massacre that happened to black citizens 100 years ago. So I think a lot of it's cultural, Congressman. I think it's only political. The reason I desperately want one is because I think Trump is an existential danger to America. I would certainly not have had that feeling about a Mitt Romney or a John McCain or a Bob Dole. There's no Republican Party today. It does not exist. There's a Trump Party. But, I mean, the remnants of the Republican Party you saw last night. And I think so many of them are admirable, but you know what? They have no role in the Republican Party. Luke Cannon, who's a great biographer of Ronald Reagan, said, I cannot tell you how uncomfortable Reagan would feel in this Republican Party. So I would love for there to be a landslide, and they have had an effect. I think the landslide of 1964 moderated the Republicans a bit. We got Richard Nixon rather than Barry Goldwater. You can argue about that trade-off. I'm saying that because David's not here. I think the landslide of 1984, it had a minimal effect. It had a minimal effect in the sense that it took 8 years for Clinton to kind of talk about new Democrats, and we couldn't go the way we were before. But I hate to be so pessimistic. I think if I had to, I'd rather have Harris's hand than Trump's hand.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't think this is a slam dunk.
Yep.
I think it's going to probably be in Pennsylvania. There's 7 states, and every single one of them, I think it's close right now.
Okay, so we've decided on Al's wisdom that a landslide isn't going to happen.
Aren't you glad you invited me?
By the way, Craig, I think there's a chance. I'm saying we have momentum. There's a chance. I think when you look at swing states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin right now, both looking good, both about +5 for count. So that's, again, 52% of the vote. If she can get this momentum and continue it for another 2-3 points, you're at that, what Al said, that 55, margin. And again, in swing districts, right, swing states. So I think there's a potential. I would not bet on that potential, because I think there's gonna be ebbs and flows, and 75, right now we're on a high, and we've had a phenomenal month in this, but Friday doesn't look great, like tomorrow we wake up, it's gonna be Robert Kennedy and Trump or whatever, he has a national, and again, it's not that big a deal, but it's gonna hurt the momentum, and there'll be other things, but I think that when you look at the job numbers, and you look at, and Bill Clinton was eloquent last night about the 50 million to 1 million job creation, Democrat versus Republican. But when I look at mortgage rates just fell again today, I was just on Yahoo Finance. Mortgage rates just dropped down today, stock market again increasing up, stock market at all-time high. And I know you're probably saying for you young folks, well, I don't feel what 56% of Americans have their pensions tied to the stock market, right? So that's a positive thing. Now, they don't feel it though. They don't feel because they're not taking that yet. They don't know. But they do see that gas prices have ticked down from $5 on average to now $3.22. So I do think that economic sentiment, it does it right now at the end of the summer, like, all right, well, might do it better. I mean, yes, and inflation was very high, but it's now down in control. And what you don't get, and this is what upsets me a little bit, Joe Biden did the hard work. Most economists a year and a half ago said, very likely USA is going to go into a recession. The majority of economists. The fact that we've avoided a recession now, again, the hard work, what do you mean the hard work? They raised the Fed rates 11 times, right? To control inflation, right? To get it back down. But that means that home prices, mortgages didn't go. So I think some of those economic indicators and sentiment and frankly, great numbers will continue. But to your point, I also listened to Fox News this morning, Donald Trump called in. The economy's horrible, these job numbers are fake, we should investigate, he's just,
Yeah,
he's
will
just
say.
full of it.
Let me ask you a question though, because I love to look at Pennsylvania. And, after Pennsylvania, after Biden won, they say, well, that was old Scranton, blue-collar Joe Biden. It wasn't that. It was the Philadelphia suburbs.
Yeah.
He topped Hillary's margin by over 120,000. The margin. I mean, that more than made up the difference between Trump and that. And he did a teeny bit better in some of those blue-collar areas. So I give him great credit. It was a great victory. But to really get to your 55%, you got to start really cutting margins in Westmoreland and Washington and Beaver and maybe, Shapiro did it to an extent,
Yeah.
but it's tough.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
Watch suburban women though. I think.
No, I think you had it, but that's not how you get to 55%, because you had most of them. You can take that, you can go, if you got last time, I don't know the figures, 59, maybe you go to 60.